So it has finally happened! I was able to buy the Demonite on Saturday, and just last night I was able to buy the Arcane pickaxe. Everybody was dogging on the Demonite pickaxe, okay? But guess what they ended up doing? I noticed this last night. The luck wasn't as high on the Demonite. I believe it was like a 47.5% increase on luck, but now it's 51%. Not only that, but there's actually a 5% increase on the mining power and a reduction on the speed. So this does 180 damage now, and it's -10 on the speed. Before it used to be -15, making this a very, very slow pickaxe. Now, other than the actual speed being very slow, technically this should be the very best pickaxe. However, today I wanted to go ahead and actually have all two tested. Now, the only difference is it's really expensive to add in these runes for all three pickaxes. To be honest, with the Arcane, it's actually extremely forgiving. 37,000 isn't that bad. I'll be able to put at least 2 to 3 on here. And my main goal is to almost match what we have next to the Magnemite and for the Demonite. For those that might be wondering how much is it to go ahead and add a rune to a Demonite, it's very expensive. Let's say I want to go ahead and add a luck with a 14% on it. This is going to cost me $150,000 per rune. So it's like buying the Demonite all over again. Okay, so I added all the runes that I wanted to go ahead and add on my pickaxes. Now, before we end up getting started, if you're brand new, hi, I do a lot of stuff and I really like testing out things on the Forge. If you ever want to learn anything new, you should totally like the video, as it always helps me come out with more content like this for you guys. And let's go ahead and get started. So by the looks of it, there's about a 3 to 4 second time period that you get to save when you have the demonic one, but how fast do both swing? Let's go ahead and test that out. So the mining potion was not used for this. However, this is being carried by 1 rune and 1 rune only. This is to increase the speed that the pickaxe has. And this is just to match a small fraction of how quickly the Arcane can go. If anything, this probably has like a 2% boost on speed, and that's it. Now, there is a substantial difference between the two. The Demonite can break things 5 seconds earlier than the Arcane pickaxe, even though that it is a little slower. Had this pickaxe actually had the same speed, this probably would have gone by a lot faster. But still, the power outweighs the speed of the Arcane. At a 1% increase on the luck, honestly, the only thing that you're really sacrificing is just the speed. And even then, you can use a rune to go ahead and even it out. But of course, price tag at a whopping $500,000, and that is excluding the amount that you have to put in adding in those runes. I calculated at the very least, this would at least cost me $460 to add in just the runes. So it's like buying the pickaxe all over again. Now, for the other counterpart, we're looking at $111,000 at the very least to fully upgrade this all 3 runes and all. Almost as if you're rebuying the pickaxe all over again, but it's not as expensive as the Demonite one. Now, I want to throw this out here as well because I experienced it a couple of times and I questioned what the heck was happening. So if you actually go into the game and if you have the new Demonite pickaxe and you see the old amount that you have here, 47.5%, you are in an old server. The 51% was buffed this weekend, so I have encountered actually getting that 47.5, and I was wondering what the heck was happening. happening. If you ever see that amount, just try to refresh into a new server. That way you can get the newest server here. In short, just refresh your game a million times until you see the 51%. That's it. That's pretty much it. Now here is another test that I want to do between the two. Remember how I told you guys you have all of these extra additional things that you could go ahead and apply to anything that you do inside of the game? Well, we have these crystals here which take forever to break. 5,000 health. That takes forever to break, especially if you're not using a good pickaxe. So I want to see how long each one will take, and we will use the mining potion for this. So let's go ahead and get started. So if you're using the Arcane pickaxe, it seems like you're going to be losing about 5 seconds of time when you're breaking stuff. Is that bad? No, not at all. I think this is definitely a cheaper alternative to go ahead and actually get something that moves quickly, but is also just as efficient as the other one. Even though that this is $500,000, not including the extra 450 minimum that you also need to go ahead and upgrade this fully. If you're still rocking this, I have no reason to doubt that you do not need to go ahead and change this immediately. At the very least, this should probably cost somebody maybe 230,000 minimum to go ahead and buy and fully upgrade this with all the runes that you need, versus almost spending $1 million to fully upgrade what we have here. 500,000 plus the 450 that it will cost you to go ahead and fully upgrade this. Now it's even worse if you have to take out any of your best runes off of your previous pickaxe, because that's only going to add additional cost to you. So here we go. This is my advice for everybody here. If you're using the Arcane pickaxe, there's no reason to change it, like at all. Your speed is so good that you don't necessarily need to do anything. Technically, you could go ahead and add in some runes to go ahead and increase your power or your luck or even more speed. However, if you do decide to go ahead and experiment with any of that, it's going to also cost you money to go ahead and remove those runes. Of course, if you have a ton of money, then money is no issue, right? Demonite, I would say, for me, is a personal investment because I prefer power over speed. Well, yes, that negative 10% is always going to stink. Adding it something to go ahead and negate that is going to make it even better. Runes do play a huge part on how you're building your pickaxe. As I always said, you can make a huge powerhouse when it comes to the Arcane pickaxe. You just have to know and grind for those runes in order to do so. So you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in game. And if you feel like the Arcane isn't doing enough output for yourself, then you could go ahead and make that financial decision to go ahead and buy the Demonite pickaxe. It's a very big investment. So now, as much as I really enjoyed the Magnemite pickaxe, the power wasn't doing enough for me. Even though I had the speed and everything on it, I wanted more damage. And that is one of the main reasons why I bought this. And this is even before noticing that the buff was made for the luck. I prefer damage more than anything, especially when it comes to breaking things. However, I technically do not have a use for this anymore. So of course, respectfully, I am going to go ahead and sell this so I could go ahead and get my money back, at least a small portion of it. However, if you're starting brand new into the game and there is a pickaxe that you want to go ahead and go after, I would highly recommend that you actually save to get this pickaxe. As I always said, and I will always say, is that this is and can be a huge powerhouse when it comes to putting runes on here. You just have to place the right ones. And this is such a cheaper alternative too. You don't have to spend as much money on this versus the Demonite. This is definitely one of those pickaxes that you would get at the very end of the game, or technically what we have right now before the next update hits. I'd say you guys have more than enough time to go ahead and try to get this before the next update hits, or even better yet, just use the Arcane until the next update hits, and if there's something better out there, then there's something better out there. But now I get to go ahead and use this and save up as much money as I possibly can now, because the amount of money that I spent on doing this whole thing has been insane. Arcane. You guys can let me know what you currently are doing with your pickaxes. Do you plan on getting Demonite? Or are you just gonna stick with the Arcane pickaxe? And as always, if you're brand new, hi, I do a lot of things. I like testing stuff like this. Make sure you guys do like the video, as it does help me come out with content like this for you guys. And I will see you all later. Okay, bye!